Well, with the playing of that familiar theme song, we go out to the other coast of the United States, called the West, and Hollywood, California, and talk to our resident motion picture reviewer, Michael Snyder. Hello, Michael.
Hi, Alex, and greetings to the rest of the world as well. We've got movies to review. Let's get right to it. In fact, we've got an odd romantic comedy with an unlikely pairing of stars and two movies by a couple of the most renowned directors in the world. Let's start with the more mainstream offering, Long Shot. So that schlub Seth Rogen is funny in the right part, even if he always plays what's essentially the same, somewhat lovable, hedonistic, kind of cheerfully gross load. And that's probably not too far from the real Rogen, who appears to be, genuinely an unapologetic stoner. But again, if he's cast in a movie with a truly amusing script, plays opposite talented co-stars with comedy chops, and is tightly directed, the results can be as satisfying as Knocked Up or Neighbors, the first one, and This Is the End. As a lead, he's kind of hit and miss. Too much of him can be kind of deadly. But for most of Long Shot, he's actually pretty good as Fred Flarsky, an angry, slovenly lefty journalist hired by Charlotte Field, who is a super hot Secretary of State running for president. I don't know, imagine if Hillary Clinton was super hot. Anyway, Charlotte happens to be the journalist's childhood neighbor and former babysitter, and she's also played by Charlize Theron. And most of the time in that beauty's kind of ultra glamorous mode. So the idea of Theron's dignified, accomplished world leader character in any kind of romantic liaison with Rogen's character is kind of a stretch. I mean, it's probably closer to fantasy than any of those Marvel superhero movies. Okay, it veers perilously close to King of Queens syndrome, like the sitcom where the hot woman is, she's the long-suffering but devoted wife to the dumpy loser guy. And that's kind of an old sitcom trope going back to like the Honeymooners and the Flintstones. In this movie, about two-thirds of the way through, with Secretary Fields and her staff, including Fred, traveling the world to push her environmental initiation as a campaign platform, things which are originally kind of plausible go off the rails, and Rogen starts relying on his usual shtick. Still, it's got really good laughs here and there. There's some light political satire that raises the IQ a bit, and it has a kind of sweetness, despite the ludicrous idea of romance between the leads, who, by the way, work well together. Charlize Theron is good at comedy. So anyway, this strikes me as a good date movie if you like Rogen's style, and even better as something to watch at home on a Friday night when it becomes available on demand. The director, Jonathan Levin, has done some really decent movies, including 50-50 with Rogen, and also Warm Bodies, which is sort of a dark, droll, zombie romantic comedy, zom rom-com, if you will. Long Shot isn't quite as good as those, but again, not bad at all. All right, we're going to go international. Nonfiction isn't nonfiction. It's the latest feature film from the fine French screenwriter and director Olivier Assayas. This guy generally makes serious movies that involve troubled, sometimes privileged people trying to navigate challenging circumstances. His most recent films, Personal Shopper and Clouds of Sils Maria, are those sorts of movies. And he also directed and co-wrote the three-episode miniseries Carlos, about the real-life terrorist known as Carlos the Jackal. But Assayas can also do sophisticated comedy, and nonfiction is an example of that. It looks at love and romance and adultery in the modern Parisian literary scene with a very light and effervescent touch. Selena is a successful TV cop show actress played by, who else, Juliette Binoche, and she finds herself being wooed by author Leonard, played by a very stocky teddy bear type actor, Vincent Magan. Leonard is known for writing novels that are thinly disguised accounts of his actual romantic encounters, and in other words, a relationship with him is bound to end up as fodder for one of his books, for better or worse. And meanwhile, he's got a significant other as well, and Selena happens to be married to Leonard's editor Alain, who was a handsome fellow, played by Guillaume Canet. So, problems. Besides the romantic rectangle, there are interesting takes on art as commodity and on the morality of making the personal public in the name of making it universal art. The bottom line is that this is one of my favorite Assayas movies. It's kind of talky, but clever and insightful. I loved nonfiction, and I'm someone who usually doesn't like nonfiction. Finally, we want to wrap things up with a film by the great Chinese director, an award winner, Zhang Yimou. He's an amazing visual stylist, quite adept at making beautiful and thrilling martial arts movies, but he clearly has a knack for putting passion and emotional turmoil on the screen, too. He initially made his rep with movies like Raise the Red Lantern, which was a very deep and lovely melodrama about a concubine, but he really had me at the period sword and sorcery movies Hero and House of Flying Daggers. This guy even did a Chinese remake of the Coen brothers' Blood Simple called A Woman, a Gun, and a Noodle Shop. All of these movies are highly recommended, and so is his latest, Shadow. It's a period piece about a very smug, whimsical king who would rather marry his sister off to the ruler of a nearby kingdom than fight a war over a city that both leaders have claim to. But the king doesn't reckon with his military commander, who is hiding secrets that could throw the neighboring territories into battle. There's swordplay and spycraft and political intrigue with arrogant heads of state, mighty warriors, and most importantly, one doppelganger, the shadow of the title. There's romance with like longing and betrayal and beautiful courtesans. There's mystical mumbo jumbo. And as I've come to expect with Zhang's movies, the art direction and cinematography are gorgeous. In fact, Shadow is all blacks and whites and grays, except for the people's faces and bodies and the blood that's splattered during some seriously awesome fight scenes. The effect is stunning. Shadow starts off kind of puzzling and a bit on the slow side, but the visuals carry you along. I mean, it sometimes looks like an old Chinese ink and watercolor painting come to life. Then halfway through, things fall into place and it catches fire. Shadow is another winner from the masterful Zhang Yimou. That's about it. Watching anything on TV or at the movies, buddy?
Nope, not at all. Don't go to the movies, and I'm getting very tired of watching television.
Well, at any event, you can catch me on Twitter at Culture Blaster and on Facebook at Michael Snyder's Culture Blast page. And that wraps it up for the week.
And yes, that wraps it up for the week. If you're listening to us 24/7, there's more GABNet coming right up, so stay right where you are.